Hi, my name is Katelyn Walley-Stoll with Cornell Cooperative Extension. On Wednesday, February 24th, 2001, a team of farm business management specialists from Cornell Cooperative Extension joined Molly Johnston-Heck with American Farmland Trust to present a brief webinar on the Dairy Forward Grant Program. This is a recording of that presentation along with the question and answer session. For more information, please visit www.farmland.org/dairy-forward or contact your local CCE Farm Business Management Specialist. If you're not sure who to contact, just visit farmbusiness.cornell.edu/about-us. Cornell Cooperative Extension is an equal opportunity affirmative action educator and employer. For any accessibility concerns or to receive this information in an alternative format, please email kaw249@cornell.edu or call 716-640-0522. Thank you and enjoy this webinar today.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nicole Tamel. I'm from the Central New York Dairy, Livestock, and Field Crops team. I'm here with my farm business management specialists and teammates throughout the state. We have Katelyn Walley-Stoll. She is the farm business management specialist for the Southwest New York team. We also have Myron Thurston, and there's Katelyn again, who is the, he is the Ag Economic Development and Marketing Specialist for CCE Madison. I got that right, Myron?
Wow, I am very impressed. That is a long title to remember.
Yeah, it is a really long title. Just why it takes me like a second to get it all out. And then, of course, we have Molly Johnston. I can't say your last name, Molly, but she is here from American Farmland Trust. She is going to talk to you about a grant that AFT and Chobani are working on together, and we will we'll open it up and let Molly give her short presentation, and then we can have some question and answer afterwards. So welcome everyone. Thank you for coming. And again, like Katelyn said, at the end of this webinar, you will have a pop-up screen for some additional questions, and you will get a recording for this probably tomorrow within the next few days. So thank you, and I'll let Molly take it away.
Okay, so it's really great to be here with you all. Like Katelyn said, or like Nicole said, I'm sorry, my name's Molly Johnston-Heck. I am the Regional Farmland for a New Generation Manager at American Farmland Trust here in New York. So I really wanted to just start quickly with a little bit of going over the agenda that I have planned for today. And then I'll get into some other stuff. So today I just want to go through the background of this grant program and a little bit about AFT. I'm going to give you some specifics around the grant information and give a couple of examples, and then just highlight a few things towards the end and give you all the information that you need in order to be able to access this grant opportunity. So let's take it away. I'm only going to talk for about 10-ish minutes, and then we'll have plenty of time for questions. So just to start out, like I said, my title here at AFT is the Regional Farmland for a New Generation Manager here in New York. And so American Farmland Trust is a national organization. Our mission is that we work to save the land that sustains us by protecting farmland, promoting sound farming practices, and keeping farmers on the land. And most of my work really falls under that third category of keeping farmers on the land. I help run a land link program here in New York, and several other projects that I'm working on, all around making sure that new and beginning farmers have access to land, and that retiring farmers and landowners are able to make their land available to farmers. So I would also be happy to talk to anybody about any of these things outside of this meeting. So feel free to contact me. You'll see my contact information at the end. But really just wanted to give you a little bit of context for what AFT does, especially here in New York. And basically, the Dairy Forward program is a partnership between Chobani and American Farmland Trust. And actually, it's sort of an interesting model because the funding for these grants is coming from the sales of a few of these farmer batch products. So you may have seen them in like Wegmans or Price Chopper, Hannaford, or wherever, I don't know where everyone lives in the state. You may have seen these products, and essentially a small portion of the sales of each of these is coming to AFT to be able to provide these micro grants to dairy farmers around New York State. And I just think that that is sort of an interesting model, yeah, to look at. So I'm going to get into some of this grant information. And really, I wanted to set the stage by saying that these grants are intended to support dairy farmers who are really facing tremendous challenges right now due to lots of things, including a weak dairy economy, disruptions from severe weather, and an aging farming population, which you all, I'm sure, are intimately acquainted with. And really, these grants are intended to help you all plan for the future. A couple of quick things about these grants. They are for professional services specifically. So this funding will go to a service provider, whether that's an attorney, an accountant, an estate planner. It's going to go to either an organization or an individual to actually support you in some process. It's not going to come directly to you, the grant itself. The grants are available for $500 to $5,000. And all of this information that I'm walking through can be found at farmland.org/dairy-forward. So that's up on the screen here. You'll get lots of information after this via email with that, that website, and the grant guidelines and an application preview are available at that site. And I just wanted to also highlight the application preview that basically, you'll need to apply for this grant online. There's a link to the online application at the website and in the grant guidelines. However, we do have this application preview available for you to start planning your application. So what I've learned in many years of granting money in my career is that it's really, really helpful to have a Word document. So this is a Word document that you can edit that has all of the questions that are on the application, and you can really plan out your answers. And so I hope that that's helpful for folks, but do remember that you do need to submit the application via the online form. This application preview is really only for planning purposes, but it really helps to be able to work through, you know, what are all the questions, make sure you have all your information together so that then when you go online, you can just quickly, you know, plug in the answers and be ready to go. And then now I want to kind of talk a little bit more about some of the eligible activities, the eligibility requirements, and some examples. So the eligible activities for this grant fall in 4 categories: farm transfer and succession planning, farm business planning, permanently protecting land, and adopting regenerative practices. And so I will talk in a minute about a couple of examples that fall under those categories, and then welcome any questions at the end, like I said. So a quick note to say that there are a few eligibility requirements. They're not very complicated or stringent, but I just wanted to walk through them. So these grants are only available for dairy farms located within New York State. The farm must have sold at least $1,000 of agricultural products in 2020. That's a fairly low bar, so we're hoping that doesn't exclude anyone, but that is a requirement. Only one application will be accepted from each dairy farm operation, so you can only apply for one grant. You can't say, oh, I'm protecting my land and planning for retirement and need to do farm transfer planning. I'm going to apply for 2 grants. We will only award 1 grant per dairy farm family. You must have a service provider already identified in order to apply. So the application actually requires a letter from the service provider that you'll have to submit. And so I just want to really emphasize that if you are thinking about a project but you don't quite have a service provider identified, you might want to start doing that so that you can submit the application sooner rather than later. Service providers must have appropriate qualifications. So this isn't always, you know, an obvious thing, but, you know, if you're hiring a lawyer, they need to be licensed in New York State, for instance. And then finally, I just, as a FYI, that grant recipients will be asked to participate in storytelling once their projects are complete. That's not a requirement for receiving a grant, but it is something that AFT will be doing, is kind of doing some storytelling with Chobani, sharing what we've been able to accomplish with this funding. And there's a little box here just to say what some examples of service providers are. I won't get too much into that because we're going to talk about examples next. All right, so this is a lot of text, but you'll see this, you'll get this PowerPoint after this and can kind of read through a little more specifically. And these examples are in the guidelines. So I just wanted to walk through, a couple of examples for each to give you a sense of what we're talking about. So for farm transfer and succession planning, you might hire an attorney to develop a farm transfer and estate plan that could include a will, healthcare proxy, or other legal documents. And basically that would, help you with business transfer planning. There are lots of other things you could also use it for, but that's just one example. For farm business planning, you could work with a business consultant to develop a plan to improve farm viability. And that could be by setting business goals, researching processing alternatives, determining potential markets, evaluating financing options, or developing a new farm enterprise on your dairy farm. For permanently protecting land, if you are looking to permanently protect your land, even outside of maybe you're looking for a grant from New York State to protect your land. Besides that, there are actually a lot of fees and costs that go into that process. And so this grant could be used for land planning, appraisals, surveys, and legal fees as some examples. And then finally, adapting regenerative practices. So this one, I feel like is kind of a new thing for our grant programs, but essentially we're thinking about, working with a certified crop advisor, or other technical service provider to develop a plan to adopt conservation practices that promote soil health. So that could include cover cropping, no-till or reduced tillage, prescribed grazing, and crop rotations on your land. And so real quick, before I finish, I just want to kind of note a few things that are important, some of which I already mentioned. So the applications are open now. You can go on today and apply. They're being accepted on a rolling basis, and they're being awarded also first come, first served. So it behooves you all to apply as soon as you're able, because at some point, the funding will run out. So it's first come, first served until the funding is expended. Again, like I said, you must have a service provider identified to apply, and you do have to apply online. So even if you use that application preview to plan your application, make sure that you plug all that information in online and submit it that way, because that's how you get in the queue to be reviewed. And then finally, just another quick reminder that funds are distributed directly to your service provider. And so we do that for a couple of reasons. The main one being that we do not want you as a farmer to have to put up $5,000 for these services. We want to be able to pay the service provider directly so that this is really has a maximum benefit to you all as farmers. So those are just a few things to remember. And finally, this is my information. So I'm happy to take lots of questions. Feel free also, if you aren't sure what your questions are right now, feel free to email me at dairy@farmland.org. My phone number is also listed here, 315-565-1538. Don't let it fool you. I'm not in Syracuse. I'm actually in the Albany area. I'm in Troy. And then, like I said, you can find all of the information that you could need to apply for this at farmland.org/dairy-forward. So I will stop there and let folks ask some questions.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks, Molly. I appreciate that. We do have a couple in the Q&A box, one in particular that you and I spoke about, and it was, would these funds be available to use in conjunction with the Dairy Acceleration Program?
Great question. It's almost like it was a plant. Yes,
I think it was by our anonymous attendee.
Yeah. Yes, these funds can be used in conjunction with that. So there is no match for this grant. So this is just a straight up grant. There's no required match for it. And they also can be used in conjunction with DAP funds. If you are required to have a match for that, you can use this up to $5,000 grant for that purpose.
Oh, fantastic.
Very little restrictions, luckily.
Yep. Fantastic. So how many farmers will be funded through this program?
Great question. We won't know until we get all of the applications and we see how much people apply for, but we're thinking somewhere between 20 and 30.
Another one is, can the service provider indicated on the application change after submitting online?
That's a great question too. I hadn't really thought about it that much. I think that's absolutely fine. I would just say make sure to email dairy@farmland.org to just clear that change with us so that we can make sure that the service provider is, licensed if they need to be licensed, and make sure that it makes sense and is still within the scope of the project.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's a great answer. The next question is, will we get a confirmation that our application has gone through?
So this is also great questions, everyone.
Yeah, fantastic.
You'll get like I think you get a really quick, like
thank you for submitting or something.
Yeah, thank you for submitting. But what I am trying to do as I am actually looking at the applications and really reviewing them is also to send out another email. So that's not automated, just FYI. But like this week, for instance, I'm going to go through and I will send out emails saying, yes, I've received your application.
Okay.
So it might not come immediately, but I will be in touch.
Sure. And then another question is, and I know that we spoke about it, but we'll just reiterate, what is the time frame for the application?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is kind of funny because there isn't like a deadline. So the applications are open right now. Like I said, you can go ahead and submit as early as 5 minutes from now. And we're awarding them on a rolling basis. So I would imagine it will take us a couple of maybe like 2 months to get everything out. But basically it's open until we receive enough applications that we no longer have funding to give, if that makes sense. So I don't have like a clear timeline, unfortunately. It's not like you have to apply by April 1st, but I would suggest, applying as soon as you're able, because it is first come, first serve.
Sure. No, that makes sense. There's only so much money in the pot, and once that's gone, it's gone.
Yeah, I wish we had millions and millions, but
but we're just thankful that there is something there for our producers. And what if something happens that we need to change?
Yeah, absolutely. I think similar to the question about when you need to change your service provider, just be in touch with us. So, you'll sign a funding agreement that just says that you're essentially going to accomplish the task that you outlined in your application. And if something changes, you just need to get sort of email approval from AFT. And so I think that we can generally be flexible as long as the project continues to stay within the bounds of the eligibility requirements, but just make sure to communicate, basically.
So right now, those were the questions that we had answered, that we had asked. Are there any other questions folks have, burning questions? Oh, here's another one. Are there any time restrictions for completing the tasks as farmers are coming into the very hectic spring season?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now, we have by the end of this year, so by the end of 2021 is the goal to have the projects completed.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
so
what we're
just
saying.
under 1 calendar year. But a lot of these projects, you are looking at them like being shovel ready. They are projects that have already kind of been in the works, correct, Molly? So it's, so you should,
I know that's something that that's something we've talked about a little bit, is that, because you have to have a service provider identified, this is really intended for folks who are ready to take the plunge and really have been thinking about, maybe doing some of this farm transfer planning, but haven't quite been able to figure out how to afford it, but are really ready to do that.
Great. Any other questions for Molly? Oh, here's a few more.
Awesome.
Can you apply for the transfer planning as well as another area, such as business planning, so long as for the same farm and less than $5,000 total?
Oh, that's a great question. And I do not, I'm going to not mince words. I do not know the answer to that question. I think the answer is no. I think the answer is you need to pick a category and, apply for one grant for that category. I think that would sort of qualify as 2 grants, which we're only affording 1. But I would say if whoever asked that question wants to email me at dairy@farmland.org, I can just confirm that is the answer, because I don't want to give you a mushy, non-closure answer.
Sure. Yep, so dairy@farmland.org. The next person, do we need to join Farmland Trust?
No, you don't. I think there might be an option for a complimentary 1-year membership if you'd like to join when you apply, but you are not required to by any means.
Okay. As a dairy farmer in 2020, but have sold my dairy, am I still eligible?
No, you have to be actively farming.
Okay, oops. And then the next one, do applications go in front of a review board for final decision?
Applications will come to me and I will confirm them with a couple of folks here. We don't have like a formal review board, but they will be reserved. I mean, essentially they're going to be awarded if they fit within the grant guidelines. It's more of like a, does this fit question? It's not like a, how does this rank against other applications, if that makes sense.
Okay, so basically first come, first serve, rolling application deadline, and as long as your proposal fits within the scope of the guidelines of the Chobani/AFT grant, then you will pretty well get awarded.
And as long as there are still funds available.
Right.
Yep.
Any other questions? Is it possible to mail in an application if we're not internet savvy?
That's a really good question. I definitely don't want this. I don't want you not being internet savvy to prevent you from applying. So I would say give me a call, and probably don't shoot me an email if you're not really comfortable with the internet, but feel free to give me a call at this 315 number. We are in theory we don't have like a process for that, but either feel free to work with somebody like Nicole or Katelyn or Myron to get that application in online, or feel free to give me a call and we'll work it out, because I don't want that to prevent you from applying.
Absolutely. I would agree. I know that there's so many farm business management specialists throughout the state that would help you, whether on a county level or on the regional level. So, please reach out to Extension if you are having some issues.
Yeah.
The next question is, if we are involved with multiple farm operations that are desperate, could each site apply separately?
That's a good question. So the way that we have the guidelines set is that we will only award one grant to each dairy farm family. So I think it kind of depends on the ownership of those entities. Does that make sense?
Anonymous attendee, do you want to write in the box, or does that make sense? I don't know who.
If they're owned by different people, different entities or different families, then I think you could apply for multiple grants. But if it's multiple sites owned by the same family, we would only award one grant. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, this person said they'll probably call to explain the situation.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great solution.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, we can talk. You guys can talk more about that. Are there any other questions? We are bumping up against that 12:30 time limit. We were thinking about just doing a 30-minute quick presentation, but if somebody has a burning question, please stick it in the chat box or in the question and answer box if you could. Additionally, remember you can email Molly and she will be more than happy to assist you that way as well.
And I just put my name and an email in the chat there. So
fantastic. Fantastic. So you guys can just grab that and stick that in an email. All right. Any other questions? Thank you, Chobani, and your office.
Absolutely.
Molly.
Thanks everyone for being on, and those were great questions. Definitely feel free to email or call me. I have a busy week this week, but I will do my best to get back to you as soon as I can. And yeah, I'm looking forward to working with many of you.
Oh, fantastic. And again, if people are having some difficulties with internet or not technologically savvy, please reach out to Extension, whether it's a regional team member or local Extension. And, there are lots of folks out there that are willing to help you out just to get your name into the pot. But we'll have you do the legwork first, though. Just remember that we will make sure that you have to have all of your stuff in order, and then we can help you out. We cannot write these grants for you.
Well,
Myra,
thank you.
popped in.
Yeah, thanks so much, Molly. This was great and an outstanding opportunity for our dairy farmers. So thanks for bringing that to us.
Absolutely.
Just wanted to let everybody know that you will see a pop-up survey once this webinar closes. Please feel free to share any feedback on there. And then tomorrow, everyone will be getting an email with the recording and some additional resources and everybody's contact information in that. So thank you all for attending today. And please feel free to reach out if you have some more personal questions that you didn't want to share in this format. That's what we're all here for. And Molly is great to work with if you have questions about your specific application. Great. Well, I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you, Molly, for all of your time. And we look forward to seeing the application. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Molly.
Have a great day,
Take care,
everyone.
Bye-bye.